Okay, so we're talking about You'll Never Find Me today, a thriller horror movie which is coming out on Shudder on the 22nd of March, and it is directed by Josiah Allen and Indianna Bell. It stars Brendan Rock and Jordan Cowan. My name is Phil, we are Boys on Film. Look who's here, it's Matt from Microfilm with 2 new albums on the way.
A ways away, but this year.
And we'll put all the details down below, so if people want to check out your music and all your information, we've got all the info down in the description box. So this is a movie, I have to say, I was quite interested in watching. I was quite grabbed by the trailer. I quite like one room type movies as long as they're entertaining, because I think they can feel quite claustrophobic and quite creepy. So this is about an isolated man living in a desolate caravan park. He is visited on a very stormy night, which could be a cliche, could ring alarm bells if you're thinking that could be a cliche. Visited by a desperate young woman who is seeking shelter from that storm. Let's start there, shall we? Because I thought initially when she started banging on his door, and he's obviously in this caravan, I thought to myself, surely that storm can't be that bad. If you're tapping on some stranger's door in the middle of the night, it was like 2 a.m. It couldn't have been that bad a storm. I think you would find somewhere else that's not like a creepy location, like a caravan park in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, that would destroy the entire premise and setup of making this movie. But...
I know, it would spoil everything, wouldn't it? But I did think that.
Yeah.
Really? Would you, just arrive at someone's caravan?
I thought that too.
Yeah.
There were many things I thought that went wrong with this film, but...
Okay. So it kind of had a similar vibe to Barbarian. You know the Barbarian first half, or maybe the first third? I thought that was a great film, by the way. Did you enjoy Barbarian? Yeah. This isn't as good as Barbarian.
No, it wasn't as good, but it reminded me of that, and it had relatively the same setup. And I liked both of those setups, both of those structure parts of the film, of both films. I really liked a lot. That was great. And then both of these films kind of went off the rails by the end of the film.
Oh, okay. Well, I loved Barbarian. I really liked how it played out at the end. But you didn't, obviously. You didn't like the final act.
It was a little... It went from a kind of serious, scary, fear, dread-based film into kind of a jokey, Evil Dead 2 kind of comedy horror, which was I don't know, it just was so jarringly different from the first half that I kind of was thrown off and never really 100% on board for the entire thing. Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. I thought it was fun though. I kind of liked that. I think they were very, all the segments in it were quite different. I think it's probably 3 different films, isn't it, Barbarian? Because you've got the very moody, creepy beginning. Yeah. And then the comedy does start to come in, but then that final act is nuts. I mean, not as nuts as Malignant. See, I hated Malignant.
Oh, I like that.
Okay, let's go. That was dumb. It was stupid. So You'll Never Find Me. Let's go back to that. So, that whole scenario, I thought, potentially it was quite creepy, I thought, because I kept thinking, okay, so who is the bad guy here? Because I thought she was quite creepy and she seemed to be holding this secret, and the camera kept zooming in on her earring. It's like, what's all that about? And then obviously he was quite kind to her and thoughtful and didn't want her going out, back into the storm. But then I wasn't sure who to trust, which was quite clever, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, that's the best part of the film, was obviously,
the beginning.
You just said, the first section of it, which is probably 2/3 of the film, is the first section. And that was really great. It had a lot of tension, a lot of dread, a lot of creepiness, and a lot of you don't know who the villain is and who's the victim. And I thought they did that really, really well. I mean, I thought the first 2/3 of the movie were great. And then I just really disliked the last third of the film.
Yeah.
And we can decide whether or not we want to spoil things, but and we don't have to go there right this second, but that kind of killed the film for me, the ending.
I did think the final act spoilt the rest of it. Again, and we were reviewing Monolith as well recently, which is obviously essentially one woman holding the film and a few voice actors. This was just them two, so it doesn't really go outside that caravan park area. It's pretty much in one room, which I think is quite a job as a director to, and obviously people involved in the filmmaking, to really make it interesting, because I think it does have a sense of dread and a almost cozy claustrophobia. That sounds really weird because that sounds quite contradictory, but it does feel like you're intrigued by the surroundings and what goes on, which is quite a job, I think, for one room.
It's an interesting setup because it's this terrible storm outside that she's seeking shelter from, but then she goes into this trailer. Is it worse than being outside in the storm? Like, it seems better because you're safe from the elements, but then you find out that maybe it's not better than being alone, that maybe there's something going on. The one kind of flaw about the setup is I think the trailer should have been completely alone in the middle of nowhere, but he's in a park with other trailers.
Yeah.
So that kind of lessens the fear. So I felt that there was some safety, but they never really focus on that. They never go into any of the neighbors. So I don't understand why she couldn't just leave and go to another trailer.
That's what I mean. That's why I meant about the beginning. Like, you're just tapping on some stranger's door at 2 a.m. because it's stormy out there. Well, okay, there are other people living there as well. So it could have been anyone, I guess, that she's tapping on the door. But yeah, it's weird. And there was a moment where she said, "Oh, I'm just going to wait until my shirt dries." It's like, are you really that bothered about your shirt drying? It's like, this guy's creepy or could be potentially creepy. So why don't you just get out of there? It's like one of those frustrating horrors, when you're screaming at the screen. It's like, why are you still there? Yeah. It's like, just move or just... And
I've said that many times.
Yeah. But I guess, that's what horrors do well, isn't it? They make you frustrated.
Yeah, they rationalize why someone stays in a particular spot when they should
never
leave.
Turn the lights on, all the cliches, all the tropes.
So you were buying the film up until let's call it the climax of the film, right?
Okay. I got a bit tired about halfway in.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, it's a job, isn't it, to make it interesting I'm guessing there were budget restraints. I mean, it doesn't look cheap necessarily, but it
looks really good.
Yeah.
It's just, they're trying to make a small film with two people, which is relatively cost effective. Once again, they didn't need the ending, which they probably blew all the money on the end of the film.
Yeah.
They could have A, saved the money, and B, made a film that's a lot scarier than what happens. And should I say a spoiler? I don't know. Can we say spoilers or not?
Yeah, dance around it. I'll cut it out if I decide it's too spoilery.
I mean, the movie is scary. There's like dread, whatever, and then the final reveal of who really the villain is. And if it ended right there, I'd be like, wow, this is a really dark, scary, screwed up movie.
There was one interesting part, I thought, which I kind of wish there was more of that sort of stuff. And it was when he was talking about he doesn't sleep very much because dreams change as you get older. And he was talking about dreams and how, that's why he doesn't sleep much, because his dreams, change. And I thought that was really interesting because I've been dreaming a lot recently, and that kind of resonated with me a little bit. He does talk about malfunctions and everything becoming confused. And I thought, okay, this is quite interesting. It's like, I wish there was more of that, but that, obviously is about 3/4 of the way in. So it's just as that nuts stuff is about to happen, which does spoil everything.
I think I missed that part of his monologue because
you nodded off and added dreams yourself.
It seemed like it was trying to make some grandiose, kind of really visual, bombastic scene when the rest of the movie is pretty simple and kind of intimate. And I think they didn't need that. I think it would have been a great story if it was this intimate story that ends really darkly, and it just ends and you're left with the fear of this man doing terrible things to people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I thought there were interesting moments. I thought the way it was shot was quite Alfred Hitchcock-ian. So it had a kind of Hitchcockian feel to it. Lots of close-ups and like the way it was framed, the way the picture was framed. It had almost like obviously a cheaper version of a Hitchcock film, but you could tell that's where the influences were from.
It had great sound design too.
Yeah.
All of the creaking and like scary sounds of a storm. It did have that fantasy kind of hokey element of lightning that's not real, where it's just like flashes of light, which is like, that's not how lightning works.
Yeah.
But you kind of go with it because it's supposed to be kind of like a haunted house, kind of like creepy vibe. And so you kind of just get into it.
So star rating. Do you want to go first?
It's tough because the first 2/3 of the movie I'd give 3 stars because I thought it was pretty decent.
Yeah.
But the ending was 2 to 1 star. So does that maybe that brings it down to 2 stars for me, I'd have to say.
I'm exactly the same. I thought I didn't hate it, but I hate it when films do plummet towards the end and it spoils everything because up until that point you do think, okay, this is okay, and then, or either you really, really love a film and you're just put off by the ending. But I was put off by the ending. I thought the ending was just a bit ridiculous and it did affect my star rating. So again, I'm going to go for 2. So it's called You'll Never Find Me. It is streaming on Shudder from the 22nd of March. Let us know if you're going to watch it. Leave a comment if you have seen it and you come back to the review. And yeah, check out Bandcamp, Microfilm on Bandcamp, because you've got 2 albums on the way this year. Very exciting.
Yeah, microfilm.bandcamp.com.
There we go. We'll see you next time. Good to see you, Matt, as always. And thank you, everyone, for watching.
You too.
Don't forget to subscribe. Check out the other film that we've reviewed, which is similar to You'll Never Find Me, which is floating above our heads. And we'll see you on the next one.